Maxwell. Welcome back for the third part of the interview.
Well, thank you, Peter. Just having a cup of coffee. Thank you for having me on, and I appreciate it. And it's kind of interesting having to be on your show since it's in Canada, and I got so many people in Montreal and all over Canada. I've got so many great friends in Canada. As a matter of fact, my wife was from Winnipeg,
Ah, okay.
and so yeah, so I know Canada well. Love Canada, beautiful place. You got the same problems we got here, but it is what it is. But I appreciate being on your show very much so.
Jordan
Oh,
Maxwell,
yeah,
you discovered many years ago that there is a hidden hand that
yeah,
controls the world events.
yeah,
Can you tell us the origins of that hidden hand and
yeah.
his motives?
Uh, yes, I back in 1961. I don't even know how many longer that is. That's over 50, maybe 60 years almost. Um, I I started talking about, and when I was talking about these subjects that we're talking about now, secret societies and hidden powers behind the throne and all that kind of stuff. Well, most adults know that that kind of thing is real. They know, yeah, there's always a boss behind the boss, and that boss also he has a boss even higher, and he keeps going up the ladder, and it gets less and less people as it goes up the ladder, but the power gets more powerful until you reach the top, and that's where the real power is. And so I knew that even as a kid growing up, just like most people do. But I wanted to know really how does it actually really work? And especially in relation to religion, government, laws, and courts, how does this stuff actually, in fact, work? And so I spent the past 60 years just looking at it, studying it. And so, like I said, I was giving lectures back in 1970s, back in 1960, 60 and 61, 62, and it actually is 63 uh, when John Kennedy was assassinated. I was the day I was going out. I was on my way out. My friends, I had two young friends who were coming to pick me up. I'm in my very early 20s, and they were coming to pick me up, and we were going to go downtown Los Angeles. Actually, it was in Hollywood, East Hollywood. I was going to be giving a lecture to a church group about secret societies in world government. And be damned if John Kennedy's assassinated. When I walked out to the car, they broke in on the program and said that President Kennedy's been assassinated. And I said to the people picking me up, I said, "See, I told you, there's something going on here behind the scenes. You can't just go out in the public street and kill an American president and get away with it. You just kill the president. Whoever can kill a president of the United States, and nobody, you'll remember, nobody went to jail, nobody went to court, nobody went to life sentences and went to prison. Nobody. And the government said it was all done. They did all the research. Everything's fine. There's nothing here to look at, so just forget it. And it's all over, and it's all forgotten. And I'd say, no, I don't forget. You killed an American president in public on the street, and nobody went to jail. And nobody knows what was going on. I mean, there's all kinds of people talking about it today, but nobody knows what really happened there. All they know is that nobody was guilty. Nobody went to prison. And so I knew that then, even back in 63, when Kennedy was assassinated, I was on the right track. I already knew that. And so what I'm doing today, I mean, I'm not talking about it much anymore because my real love, even back then, my first love was not government, not conspiracies, not Illuminati stuff. I started talking about Illuminati in particular, that subject, back in 1967, in January and February of 67. That's a long time ago. I started talking in public about the Illuminati, but I was already giving lectures, like I said, as far back as 61 on the subjects of secret societies, etc., and how they operate in governments and religions and courts and politics. And so having said all of that, I'm saying that because I know this subject. I've been talking about it for like 65 years. I know something about it now, and but at the same time, I would say that I am not the world's foremost authority on any subject. Period. Because I'm smart enough to know how much I don't know. So there's a lot we just don't know, and we're not going to know. Like talking about the guys who run the planet and all the secret societies, I think what was his name, George Carlin, said it best in one of his routines. George Carlin talking about the Illuminati and secret societies, and he said it's a big club, and you ain't in it. And so I thought that's funny. It's a big club. Yeah, it is a big club. It's a secret group, a secret society, and you don't know anything about it because you're not in there, and you're not supposed to know anything about it. And then I go on to say, and if you do find out something about the secret society, you're getting on dangerous ground now, because you can get hurt knowing things you're not supposed to know. And so I would say knowing about the secret societies behind world governments is similar to knowing something about an organized crime family that you have personal knowledge of. You've seen it with your own eyes. You have personal eyewitness knowledge. Well, that can be very dangerous. That can be real dangerous if gangsters and criminals that know you know something and can use it against them. That's very dangerous. You might lose your life over that. Okay? Well, let's think about the organizations, groups of men who put together the killing of an American president. That's not even organized crime. That's real serious. And so if you know anything about them, you better keep your mouth shut. The president didn't, and he's dead. And so I know that most people do not know the significance of how powerful these secret orders and secret societies are. But, the idea being very simple. If you're doing something in secret, it's obvious you don't want anybody to know what you're doing. And so, obviously, well, that's why, the government keeps talking about transparency. We want to be transparent so that people will see what we're doing. We're not pulling and we're not doing anything evil or bad. We want to be transparent. And yet, today, the United States government is known all over the world as being the most corrupt, lying, non-transparent operation on the face of the earth. The Americans don't know nothing about nothing concerning anything, period. Americans really are a very ignorant, ill-informed people. It's because their government is not only not transparent, it doesn't want anybody to know anything, and that's why Americans have become so ignorant. They've dumbed down the population in school, making it so difficult for a human being living in America to have a brain, much less to be able to think. And so you don't need to think if you're an American. You got television. My God, you got football and basketball and soccer and beer drinking and parties and entertainment and Disneyland. For God's sakes, you don't need to be thinking about too much of anything. Don't worry about it. And so government is what I call, as my opinion, government around the world is simply gang wars. It's organized crime. It's a gang war. And the American gang is against the Mexican gang, or the Irish gangs against the British gang, or the Arab gangs against the Jewish gang. So, or the cowboys against the Indians, and the cops against the robbers. There's always somebody is against somebody else, and that's called divide and conquer. Meaning, you keep people fighting themselves and fighting each other, and they won't have time to look what you're doing and see what you're doing. Now, keep in mind when you're talking about secret societies, think about this. Why is it, and I've asked this question so often, why is it that the world we live in is so filled with wars, violent wars breaking out everywhere in countries all around, and civil unrest, like in America, the civil unrest between blacks and whites, the civil unrest in Canada between the French and the English, and between Canada and America. There's all kinds of civil unrest and political stuff going on that maybe you don't know about. And so, of course, the people who are in power, they understand that it's none of your business. None of your business to worry about what the government's doing and who its enemies are. You just do what you're supposed to do. And so, what I'm saying is that when you see a big fight, why are we having so many wars? Well, when you see a big fight, like in Las Vegas, a big heavyweight championship fight, the two boxers are there, you got to remember that there was a fight promoter, someone who put up the money to pay for the venue, to pay for the insurance on the building, to pay for the printing of tickets, and paying for security. You got to bring in all the security, and then you got to pay for insurance in case the roof falls and 5 people are killed. You got to have insurance on those buildings, and that's a lot of money for insurance for one night when you're going to have thousands of people there. And then, of course, you got to pay the fighters too. You got to pay them up front. And so then you got to put it all together and put it out on TV and advertise it in magazines and newspapers. And so all of it to set up this fight is going to take a lot of time and effort and money. And that's what you call a fight promoter. He makes sure everything is ready to go. All the advertisements out there, and everybody's been paid. And now just waiting for a fight night, everybody's standing in line to buy tickets. That's what he makes his money, because he spent, say, $10 million to set up the fight, but they're going to make $150 million on the fight. And so, you spend a little, but you make a lot. And so what I'm saying is that the reason why we're having wars all over the world, normally people don't want to fight each other. I mean, even in Canada. I mean, people are not interested in fight. Okay, you're French, you're French. Leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. You're English and I'm French, or you're black and I'm white. It doesn't matter. We're all living here. You leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. You mind your business and I'll mind mine. But that's not what's happening in the world. There's wars everywhere. Well, in other words, people are fighting each other. Therefore, my point being that there must be a fight promoter. Somebody's causing these wars to happen. Somebody is causing these wars to happen. Why? Well, wars are, it's been said in America, war is a business. You know how much it costs to buy a tank? Well, if your government's got to buy 500, my God, the company that's producing the tanks have just got one hell of a contract. Yeah, well, what about all the bombers and jets? Some of those jets cost $3 or $4, $5 million apiece, and you're ordering 100 of them. My goodness. Yeah, you're talking about a lot of money. Well, yeah, but this is war. Well, yeah, but the people of the two countries at war don't want the war. The Jews were happy living in Germany, and the Germans were happy living among Jews. So what are we going to war over? Somebody is making money on this. Somebody's behind the scenes promoting it. And the people, keep in mind, the people cannot do anything. I don't care how many people in Canada want a war with another country, it ain't going to happen. You have to wait till the government decides to go to war, not you. And so, therefore, you are not going to be able to cause a war to happen or a fight to break out. You can try it on the street, and you'll be arrested for breaking the peace and street fighting or something, and you'll go to jail for it. Unless, of course, the government's going to war. Now you don't go to jail. You'll get stars. You get paid to go to war. And so I'm saying that the wars that are going on today around the world is because there are secret societies, there are secret people meeting and doing secret things that you don't know about. We used to call that organized crime. You know, when the mob is planning to overthrow a bank or rob a bank or or kill somebody, whatever it is they're going to do is organized crime. They're not going to come out on the radio in the afternoon and talk about, now watch what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to rob the bank, and we're going to do this, and we're going to put the money here and there. Organized crime is not telling you what they're going to do. As a matter of fact, nobody knows what they're going to do except the guys last night who planned it. And that was just a little private meeting, and you're not supposed to know about that. So I say, wait a minute, was that a private meeting last night when 5 guys got together and going to rob a bank? Yeah. Well, then, they're part of society. Yeah, but they kept it secret. So they're a secret society. So this is what I'm saying. When you talk about secret societies, you're talking about, for the most part, organized crime, because any society that wants to keep everything secret obviously does not want you to know about it. And if they don't want you to know about it, how come? Well, because it's unlawful. We're going to rob a bank. We're going to do something. We're going to start a war. And we don't want you to come out and put it on the television night with my picture showing what I'm doing. And so the secret societies have been operating around the world for hundreds of years. You can go all the way back into, I'm sure there were secret societies 500-600 years ago. I know there was, and even into the BC. There's always been secret cabals, criminal syndicates. I would say Wall Street. Wall Street in New York is a secret society. You don't know what they're doing. You can see once in a while some of the outbursts that happen, some terrible things that happen that Wall Street was involved in. But were you there 6 months ago when they were meeting in private at 2 o'clock in the morning at Wall Street, going to buy the stocks, or going to be buying this company or buying that? And then later on, we found out that it was a conspiracy, and you made millions and millions of dollars, and it was criminal. So that's what I'm talking about. Criminals who meet in secret to do things against the public. Well, that's called organized crime. Everybody understands that. And so you've got to have a fight promoter. And so that's why there are fights all over the world, because they're being promoted by somebody. Well, when you find out that the large defense contractors, the big ones, Lockheed and all the big defense contractors in North America, Canada and North America, especially in Europe and Russia, all over the Asia, all these big defense contractors, these are all fight promoters, and so the Irish fight promoters are putting together a big war against the English. Well, it's okay, because the English are planning late at night. They didn't tell you, but they're planning on going into Ireland and causing some murder and violence. So I want people to understand that what's going on in the world today, when you see it on television, you see all of the fanatical, incredible criminal stuff going on with wars and violence, and then, of course, the incredible insanity going on in government, and especially in U.S. government. U.S. government is so insane that all the other criminal, insane governments are scared to death of them. because America is so insane, and it's got the biggest plane, the biggest guns, the biggest and most powerful secret societies, and we've gotten so powerful that we're not even secret about it anymore. We're God, and you're not. Period. And we'll run the planet whether you like it or not. So it used to be secret societies running America. No, the secret societies don't even care if you know anymore. You're not going to do nothing about it anyway. Well, that's the same thing Al Capone did in Chicago in the 20s and 30s. Yeah, he was known all over the world as a big Al Capone, the gangster. You don't care if you know it. So what? So if you know he's a gangster, you know he's killing people, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Well, why don't you have a beer? Go to one of my places and have a beer and watch TV, watch the game. Don't worry about it. Why? Because you're not going to do nothing about it. Why? Because you can't do nothing about it. And so that's the other problem, and I've said this before. The American people and people in general, especially in Canada too, the Canadian people, and remember I married one. My wife was from Winnipeg, and I know Canada. I love Canada. I was all over it. So I consider us to just be, North Americans. I don't see any difference in Canada and America. We're all people, and we're all here together. But I also know that there's so much going on in politics, in religion, in government, and secret deals being formed behind the scenes when the different criminal families in New York get together and they make a deal between themselves. Well, they didn't call the government and tell the government what they were going to do. No, that was a little private meeting. And so the point I wanted to get across, that I'm just remembering, is that people in North America, Canada and America, are powerless to do anything. You can sit and watch what your government is doing and what the other governments are doing and what the other people are doing. We Americans are sitting watching what the Canadians are going to do and what they're not doing. And the Canadians are watching what the Americans are doing and not doing. But that's all you can do is sit and watch. But why? Because you have no control. And why do you have no control when it's supposed to be a democracy or whatever the word is, where everybody is supposed to be knowledgeable and everybody makes the decisions? We make the decision as a nation, and we all decide one way or the other. That's the so-called democracy. Well, how come that don't work? It's because people in North America and the world in general have no power to do anything, period. Why? Because knowledge is power. There's an old saying, knowledge is power. Why? Because if you know what's going on, that's different. Now you can do something about it. That's why America has the FBI, the CIA, NSA, National Security Administration, CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, meaning governments don't want to be stupid and ignorant. They make their people stupid, but they're not. Governments know exactly what you're doing. They are mapping your telephone calls. They're watching what you buy on your credit card. They are watching what television shows you are watching. They are watching what movies you go to. They are listening to radio shows to see how much the people are thinking and what they're thinking. They're watching, and why? Because governments want to know. Why? Because that's where the power is. They know what they're doing. You don't. I mean, most Americans don't even know what they're doing, much less what their government is doing, right? And so that's why the subject of secret societies is so important, because people do not realize that there are very powerful individuals, very wealthy men. You know that makes sense, even in your town. When you get like 5 or 6 guys in your town who are the wealthiest and most powerful people in your community, in your town, there may be 6 of them, but they're all very wealthy, very powerful. You got to know logic alone tells you you meet with your friends and you go out and have dinner with your friends and have a couple of beers with your friends and go out to a movie and entertainment with your friends, well, they're going to go out with their friends too. But but there's only six of them. And when they're out talking, they're not talking about the football that you're talking about or the baseball or the movie you saw. They're talking about business, money. They got $100 million involved in this, and they're talking to their friend across the table who's got $250 million involved in it. They're talking business, period. And so whatever they're talking about, you don't know, but you'll find out. You'll find out later when some company goes broke or some new company opens up and a new corporation moves into town. It didn't just happen. No, that happened when your wealthy guys in your neighborhood got together one night and talked about a new business that they might want to do. And so I'm saying to people listening, anything that's happening in your government, anything that's happening in our government, in the U.S., anything that's happening on the planet, just understand there are powerful people who have a dog in the race. They have a reason to be there. They want to know and be a part of. So that's why all the wars are going on. That's why all the economic problems and the all the political stuff going on, and all the wars between religions, with the Jews are being killed by Arabs, and the Arabs are being killed by the Christians, and Christians are being killed by the by the Islam, and all the different wars between the religious groups. Why? Because somebody is making it happen. Normally, the Christian countries would live to themselves and do their own thing. Jewish countries would do their thing. But why is it that the countries are now killing each other, fighting each other, especially religious? I can understand the commercial. We're talking money and crime and money. But the religious, who supposedly love God and are doing what they do because they respect and have the decency to love God and to be lawful, and yet they are killing each other in the Middle East, in Ireland, and the Pope is. I never heard the Pope one time, never once have I ever heard a Pope, any Pope, at any time, come out and say to the Catholic people of the world, especially in Ireland, do not kill anyone. Do not kill anyone, period. But especially don't kill your Protestant brothers. They may have a difference of opinion about religion, but that's between them and God. That's God's business, not yours. If they're wrong, God will deal with them. But don't go out and kill them because they're Protestants. And I've never heard Billy Graham or any Protestant leader saying in Ireland or Scotland or any place else in the world, just because the Catholics have a different view of theology and they differ from you, that is no reason for you to break the law and go out and harm them and kill them. They have a right to believe what they want to believe, and you have a right to believe what you want to believe. So why are you out there killing each other? Well, it's because somebody wants to see that fight happening. Somebody's a fight promoter, and they want to see it. Why? Because there's a reason why. If you can cause people to fight each other in a city while everybody's fighting each other in the city, you can go in and buy land quickly. You could go in and steal stuff. You could go in and do all kinds of things that people won't know because they're out fighting each other. So that's what I'm saying. Secret societies and secret groups are causing world unrest. They're causing assassinations. They're killing presidents. They're causing wars in the Middle East. They're causing all the banking fraud, all the banking stuff going on in America, Canada, and the rest of the world. Why? Because there are very greedy and powerful people who want big money. And they don't. And when you let me tell you something. When you get that big, that's when bloodshed comes. You're going to start killing people when you get that big. So that's the story of secret societies. People who run the world that you don't even know exist.
Jordan Maxwell, you talk about secret society in a general way.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea who are they, or just speculations?
After that, I needed a cup of coffee.
No problem.
uh, Actually, yes and no, because I know certain organizations in America are criminal organizations that are actually planning, planning, organizing, directing, financing, and organizing and directing wars all over the world. That the one that comes to my mind, which is the most obvious, is an organization in New York. It's called the Council on Foreign Relations. Go to the web. Go on the web. Anybody listening to me, go on the web to YouTube and go to and type into YouTube. Type this into to watch. It's called Illuminati. Spell ILLUMINATI. Illuminati. And then type in the word Illuminati, and next to it type in the word Myron, Myron, Myron Fagan. I think it's Fagen. So go on the web to YouTube and type in Illuminati Myron Fagan. Myron Fagan did a 2.5 hour lecture about secret societies. But what he did, this was recorded back in 1966. So when you're listening to Myron Fagan, just remember this was recorded back in 1966, 55 years ago or more. And listen to the most extraordinary thing you have ever heard in your life. In my life, I have been all around the world. I've heard all the stories. I know all the players. I've been doing this for over 60 years, but I have never in my life ever heard anything as devastating, as phenomenally fascinating, interesting stuff that Myron Fagan did on that subject of Illuminati. I still today listen to that and I think, wow, this is sensational knowledge. I've never, people will listen and say, I've never heard anything like this. But he outlines how secret societies work, and he explains who they are, what they've done, how they've done it, and what it means. But remember, it was made by, he recorded this a long time ago, back in 1966, and you will not today, you will not hear anything near as devastating as that man did back in 1966. So I'm telling everyone who's listening, go on the web to YouTube, type in Illuminati Myron Fagan, and listen for 2.5 hours, and you tell me if that's not the most startling stuff you've ever heard in your whole life. It's extraordinarily important stuff. So that's it.
Jordan Maxwell, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you talk about the involvement of the Vatican.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How far this institution
Oh yeah. Yeah.
is
Oh, you
involved
got.
in
Yeah.
this conspiracy?
That's a major subject. See, I was born and raised Catholic, and my whole family were Catholic. I've been all over the world. I've given lectures in all kinds of countries around the world, and so I know what's going on. I've been a world traveler for many years, but I knew many years ago about the Vatican, not the Catholic people.
No.
You'll notice I didn't say anything about the Catholic people. My mother was the Catholic people. My mother, my father, my brother were Catholic people. All of my family that I love were all Catholic people. Well, I'm not condemning Catholic people.
No.
I'm not condemning the Russian people when they were under communists and the Soviet Union communists. Yeah, the communists in the Soviet Union may have been an enemy, but it's not the people. The Russian people are not my enemy. Hell, I got all kinds of friends around me are Russian people, and they are not my enemy. They're my friends. And so the people in Ireland, I'm just saying that people are not your enemy. And so don't paint everybody as evil. So when I'm talking about the Vatican, I'm talking about a corporation, a company, a big operation. And when I talk about Sears or Hudson Bay Company or whatever, I'm not talking about the people who work there. No, I'm talking about the corporation and its history, going back 200 years, and the Eaton Company, where it actually came from, according to the encyclopedia. And so I'm not talking about the people who work at Eaton, because my wife's father worked at Eaton Company. So I'm not condemning the people. I'm talking about the corporation, the company. Well, when I talk about the Vatican, I'm not talking about the Catholic people. As I said, my mother was Catholic. And I know the people are good, just like people of Jehovah's Witnesses are equally as good. They're Baptists and Presbyterians and Jewish people. I'm not saying the people are bad. The people are just people. It's the corporations, the companies, the big operations. That's what I'm talking about. So when you go back and look at the history of the world for at least, I would say at least 6,000 years, go back and start with the Proto-Sumerians, back to the most ancient Hindus, and look at and watch and read the evolution of religion from what I call the plains of Shinar. Go back to Iraq, Iran, Egypt, the Middle East, the Arabic countries, into Sinai. Go back 6,000 years and look at the history of where what was going on in the Middle East, what was going on in India, in China 5,000 years ago, and look at what their religions were all about, what their government was all about, and then start studying it. It'll only take you a while to get into it, but it's very interesting. You get to where you begin to see patterns. You begin to see things which are happening over and over again. And so the Vatican, if you go back, and this is one thing I have always, it's always stumped me. I cannot understand it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If you do the research and study, and most people hearing me have never studied what I've studied for 65 years, most people haven't studied for 65 minutes. And yet they think I'm crazy. No, it's very simple. I've done my homework. I've been studying for many, many years. I'm not talking to hear myself talk. I'm telling you as a teacher. I'm just telling you what's in the books. Go read it yourself. So when I talk about the Vatican, I know the Vatican's past. I know, I go all the way back to the 3rd century BC and 2nd century BC with the founding of the Roman Empire, and how the Etruscans took over northern Italy, and they eventually took over Italy and eventually founded the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was Etruscan. And so if you don't understand the Etruscans, you're not going to understand the Roman Empire. And then when you understand the Roman Empire, and when it collapsed in the 5th century, right around 425, 426 is when the Roman Empire, we are told, officially collapsed and was no longer a government in 425 AD. If you remember what happened back then in Europe and in Italy in particular, in Rome, the Caesars that ruled ancient Rome were referred to. There were terms that the ancient Romans used to refer to their leaders. Caesar was referred to as the great bridge builder. A great bridge builder. When Tiberius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, the Caesars of Rome were referred to as the bridge builders. And they were referred to as the great bridge builders, because there were people building bridges back in the Roman Empire. No, they're not Caesar. Caesar is the great bridge builder. And that's a term meant that Caesar is building a bridge from one country to another. He's connecting different countries to each other. He's building a bridge symbolically. And so, as Rome would take over one country and bring that country now, once they fell, they would now become part of the Roman Empire. So he made a bridge to that country. Then later on, the Roman Empire would move into another country and take it over. And now Caesar made a bridge to that company. So he's called the Great Bridge Builder. Excuse me. So the word in Latin for great bridge builder is Pontifex Maximus. Pontifex Maximus. Pontiff, and that's why today the Pope is referred to as the great bridge builder, the Pontifex Maximus. So that's what, what I'm saying is that the Pope is now, as he has always been, Caesar in Rome. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. Rome was the center of the Roman Empire, and Caesar was the god of Rome. Well, today there's still Rome. There's still an empire. But the Pope is called Pontifex Maximus, so he is Caesar. Now, when you understand that, now you can begin to look at, well, what has Rome been doing? You find out that it's a corporation, and it's one of the first most powerful corporations in the world is the Vatican. It's a company, and it's like I said, it's like Eaton Company. It's a big corporation. It's just been around a long time. Been around for I don't know 1,600 years. The corporation's been around, so it's been doing business all over the world. And so, but the thing about it that has always bothered me, and I understand corporations, I understand organized crime, I understand how the humans are cattle, and we're all herded in like cattle to buy something, and we all go to the ball game because that's what all the cows are doing now. They're all going out to the ball game. But the one thing I have never yet figured out is why is it that Catholics have not looked at what they're worshiping, what they are giving their time. Let me explain something to you. I talk a lot about words. Etymology is the term. I talk a lot about words. Well, one word is worship. You go to church for worship. That word, worship, is made up of two separate English words. The first word is worth, W-O-R-T-H, worth, means the value of something. What is it worth? And ship is part of the words in English, like citizenship, courtship, and citizenship, and dealership, and all kinds of ship, and salesmanship, scholarship. My God, you can go down the line. There must be 100 different words that you can put ship with. But worth, W-O-R-T-H, worthship becomes worship. So when you talk about worship, you're talking about what is it that's so important in your life that you keep it in mind 24 hours a day. Why? Because it's so valuable. You place a high value and a high worth on something. So if you've got a stack of gold in your garage, you're going to be thinking about all day and all night, every day when you go to sleep. Why? Because it's very valuable. And so therefore we could say you are worshiping your gold. Because that's all you think about. That's the only thing that has any worth to you is your goal. And so the word worship means that you are paying whatever it is that you're worshiping, you are giving it a lot of worth. You're saying it's very valuable. And again, I go back to my question. If you're worshiping something, if you consider it to be so valuable that you're giving your life to go to church every Sunday, and and you are spending time and effort and money and your life and bringing up your family to follow the church, one thing that's always bothered me: why is it, if you're giving so much worth and value to the church, and to the Vatican and to the church, the Catholic Church, I don't understand why you don't investigate where the church came from. Why is it you don't investigate uh, the teachings, where the teachings of the Catholic Church come from? I don't understand that, because if you go on the web or go to a library, it's very easy to do nowadays because we have the web. You don't even have to go to the library. But I used to go to the library all the time. But I lived in libraries. But go on the web and write this name down. Write this name down. It's called Dagon. And it's spelled Dagon. 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 Well, Dagon was a god in the ancient 5,000, 4,000 years ago in the Middle East that we call today, the Arabic world, the Phoenician, Canaanite, Israel, and all that ancient stuff. Well, Dagon was a very powerful god of the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians were today what we call the Jewish people. The Jewish people are actually, their religion comes from Phoenicia. And what we call Hebrew. When you talk about the Hebrew language, no, there is no Hebrew language. I said this before, I'll say it again. There is no Hebrew language, period. It does not exist. There is a language called Phoenicia. It's the Phoenician language. But today, most people don't speak the Phoenician language. But there is a group of people who do speak the Phoenician language. They're called Hebrews. Hebrews speak a Phoenician language. And so we today, we say, when we hear them speaking their language, we say, oh, that's Hebrew. They're speaking Hebrew. No, they're not speaking Hebrew. They are Hebrew, but they're speaking Phoenician. So that's like in America. Americans speak American language. No, Americans are Americans, but they speak English. They don't speak American language. They speak English. Well, the Hebrews are not, they're called Hebrews, but they're not speaking Hebrew. And so when you know and understand that the Hebrew language is actually Phoenician, from which we get the word phony or phonetics, when you study a language, it's phonetics, and the language becomes phony. Phony comes from Phoenician. So anything that's phony is Phoenician, okay? And so now you understand that if you go back and you look at the history of the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Philistines, all of those people who lived in that general area today, we call Israel. We call it Israel. But no, it wasn't called Israel a long time ago. It's been called Israel since 1948. But that area that you think of today in the Middle East called Israel, no, that was called Canaan. Remember in the Bible, the land of Canaan? Yeah, well, that's Canaan. Today we call Canaan Israel. No, it's not Israel, it's Canaan. And Canaan, the people of Canaan spoke Phoenician. And so once you begin to see, wait a minute, then Israel is not really Jewish, it's Canaanite. And there is no Hebrew language, it's Phoenician. Well, then it would behoove you, why don't you take a few minutes and do something you've never done before? Do something really different. Go read a book. Go to a library or go on the web and read about Phoenician language. Read about the history of the religions of the Canaanites, the Phoenicians. Go back and read about what was going on in the ancient world of Canaan, the Phoenicia. Then, and so if you do that, you're going to immediately see in all the history books, all the reference books, you're going to see a lot of talk about the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Philistines, and they had a god. Their main god was called Dagon, Dagon, Dagon. And then you will see, if you bother yourself to do a little research on the subject, you will see that the priest of Dagon, the god was called Dagon, but he was referred to as a fish god. Now, the Assyrians called him Anis, Anis, the fish god, but the Phoenicians called him Dagon. Dagon, Anis was the same god in the ancient world. But the priest who led the worship of Dagon wore a fish costumes. Yeah, go back and read it. And there it is. It's pictures. You will see all the priests dressed like a fish. They got the tails of the fish, and the back, and the back of a fish, and on their head they have a fish head. This was called the worship of Dagon, or what we call Phoenicia Cana, or what we call Israel, or what we call Christianity. And so today, if you just do some homework, you will find that if you go back and look at the history books of the worship of Dagon, you will see that the priest of Dagon 4,000 years ago wearing the same identical clothing as the Catholic priest and the Pope. The Pope is called a mitre. That big hat that the Pope wears is called a papal mitre. The papal mitre is the headdress for the priest of Dagon. And so what I'm saying is you don't have to be an astronaut or have 189 IQ. Just go look at the worship of Dagon and see that the Pope today is leading the Catholic Church and the Catholic peoples of the world in the worship of Dagon. It ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. It ain't got nothing to do with Yahweh and the Hebrews and all that stuff. It has got nothing to do with anything you call Christianity. The papacy, the Pope, and the Vatican itself is leading the world in the worship of Dagon. Dagon, the Roman, Phoenician, Canaanite, Roman god that the Etruscans were promoting. We call it today the Roman Catholic religion. But remember, in Latin, the word Catholic means universal. Anything that is universal, that means air. Air is called Catholic. Why? Because it's everywhere. It's universal. Water is Catholic. All water is Catholic. Why? Because in Latin, Catholic means everywhere, all over the world. And stupidity, that's Catholic too, because stupidity is everywhere. And so the point I'm making is that I have never understood how the Catholic people have such a high reverence and feel it so holy to see the Holy Father, and so holy in the church to see all of the candles and the incense and all of the holiness of holy, and to make you feel very holy.
So,
All of that I understand, but it's amazing to me. Get past the candles and the hymns and the beautiful churches and all of that, and go down and see in the history books that what you're worshiping is a Phoenician Canaanite fish god called Dagon. And then when you start to look at the fact that Catholics all over the world are praying to God for peace and prosperity, the Jews all over the world praying to God for peace and prosperity, people all over the earth are the Hindus, the Baptists, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons. Everybody is praying to God for peace and security and happiness, while the entire earth is in violent revolution, in violent chaos. Which the reason why the world is in such horrible condition is because you're not worshiping God, G-O-D, which is simply dog spelled backwards. You are not worshiping the divine. You're not showing respect for the divine presence in the universe. You don't even know what's out in the universe, so you have no respect for any of it because you don't know anything about it. But you are holding high and respecting the worship of a fish god. For God's sakes, wake up. The Catholic Church is worshiping a fish god called Dagon. That's not Jordan Maxwell saying this. I've been studying theology for 65 years. You tell me I'm wrong. Go to any dictionary, any encyclopedia, go to any Christian establishment, and you will see the Catholic Church from day one, from the very beginning in the 4th century when the Roman Empire fell, from day one, the Catholic Church, like Caesars of Rome, like the Etruscans who founded Rome, they have all been worshiping a false pagan fish god. And that's why there's no peace in the world today. Because you would think if everybody's praying to God for peace, there would be peace. No, you're not praying to God. You're praying to a fish god, 4,000, 5,000-year-old fish god, pagan fish god. Wake up and understand your religion is an ancient pagan fish worship, and the Protestant Christianity that came out of the Catholic Church is equally as bad. They're worshiping the sun, S-U-N. So they're sun worshipers. That's why you go to church on Sunday. Anyway, it's just an extraordinary story of theology that most people have never been introduced to, the really dark story of religion, where it comes from. You need to wake up because the truth will set you free. So knock and it will be open. Seek and you will find. Ask and it will be given. Meaning, wake up, open your mind. Like I said, your mind is like a parachute. Don't work if it's not open. So open your mind and begin to go back, go on the web, and start looking up the worship of Dagon and the Catholic Church, and you will see now for the first time for 1,600 years, Rome has been leading the worship around the world of a fish god. No wonder the world is in trouble today. No wonder there's a need for a new world order. No wonder, because Christianity, Judaism, Islam can all be traced back to Hinduism, and Hinduism and it goes all the way back into the most ancient times. You need to understand where all of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are worshiping ancient pagan gods. Islam is worshiping the old moon god Sin, S-I-N. Look up the word Sin. It's the name of an old ancient god in Arabia for the moon. The moon was called Sin. So the Islamic world is worshiping Sin, the moon god. And but they don't call it Sin. That's what the Phoenician Canaanites call it. But in Arabia, they call it Yahweh. Well, Yahweh is the same God that the Phoenician Canaanites were worshiping, called Sin. But the Hebrew, the Phoenician language, they called it Yahweh. And so Yahweh is actually Sin, and Sin is actually Allah. So Allah, Yahweh, Allah, and Sin, they're all the same God. They're all the same moon god. But happily, the Christians don't know that. The Jews are totally unaware of that. And the Islamics don't even care. They don't even read any of it. So I'm just saying, it's a fascinating world we live in when you get into religion, secret societies. The word is occult. Occult simply means hidden. And all the real knowledge and wisdom of the world has been hidden from you. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. So I'm suggesting you might want to start looking at what's really going on in this world and go back and look at the worship of Dagon, Yahweh, Allah, the moon god Sin, S-I-N, was the name of a moon god. And you will find out that government, religion, politics, commerce, banking. It's all a criminal syndicate. It's all a bunch of baloney. And we've been killing each other over it. We're killing each other all over it, and none of us know what we're doing. That's it.
Jordan Maxwell, you said earlier that the Vatican is a corporation, and you're right. They are so fucking rich.
Yeah, they're rich and powerful. Why? Because they're a company.
I'm sure you watched the great movie, The Godfather Part 3.
Oh, yes,
in
of
which
course.
mobs are disguised in priests.
Yeah,
who
but they're
assassinate.
meeting, yes, but they're meeting in the Vatican.
Yes.
They're not meeting in some hotel somewhere in the secret. No, no, no. Mafia is meeting in the Vatican with the Holy Father. Period. Right there in your face.
There is a key scene in the movie where Vatican doing business with the Godfather,
Yeah,
aka the mafia, and the Pope is assassinated in the movie. When I saw this, I saw all the hypocritical involvement. They use religion as a cover.
of course, of course. Hey, it's just business. It's just business. You got to make money. And so the way you make money, what was his name who founded Scientology? L. Ron Hubbard. Remember L. Ron Hubbard who founded Scientology? He said a very famous quote, and Scientologists will tell you it's very legitimate. He said, if you really want to have political power and make a lot of money, start a religion. People love that. Start a religion. Boy, you get all kinds of people follow your religion. They'll give you money and they'll worship you and buy you a new car. And my God, you don't have to work anymore. And you can just tell them anything and they'll believe it. And so if you want to be rich and powerful, yeah, start a religion. Start a church. People love that. In America, if you start a church, they just give you money. They can't wait to give you all their money. So I watch all these gangsters and mafiosis and all these scumbags. They're all dancing around on the stage in Protestant Christianity. The church, the Catholic Church does it different. They do it very quiet and with reverence. It's still the same. I mean, my God, the mafia comes from Italy, right? And Corsica and all of Italy. Where do you think and the mob is coming from? Sicily. We're talking about Etruscans. We're talking about the ancient history of what we call today Italy. Italy, Rome, the Roman Caesars, the universal Roman religion, the religion that Rome worshiped was Dagon. And so today, universal means Catholic. So today we have something called the Roman universal religion. No, it's the Roman Catholic religion. Well, Catholic is Roman, and Catholic is universal. And so again, I'm saying I'm just amazed that people are still today crawling on their knees and going to church and giving money. And that tells me that when everybody, that's an old saying in America, when everybody is thinking the same thing, that means nobody is thinking at all. And so I see all the millions of Christians going to church, and nobody is thinking, do you know what the word church means? How many people go to church on Sunday? They don't go on Monday. That's moon, M-O-N. That's where we get the word month, as M-O-N, moon, month, or moon day. No, it's Monday. But the Christians go to church on Sun, S-U-N, Sunday. And the Jews go to temple on Saturday. Saturday. Why? Because the Jewish God today, in Judaism today, is a lot different than Judaism of 4,000 or 2,000 years ago. Judaism today worships the planet Saturn. Saturn is the god of the Jews. And so that's why you go to, and so The god of the Jews, as I said, is Saturn. But if you go back and look at Saturn worship, some 2,000 years ago in Israel, in that area of the world that we call Israel, Saturn was called Shabbath, Shabbath. The planet Saturn was called Shabbath, Shabbath, Shabbath. And so therefore, if you're going to worship Shabbath on Saturn's day, you call it Sabbath. And so in the Ten Commandments, remember to keep holy the Sabbath. Sabbath is Shabbath. Shabbath is Saturn. That's why the Jews go to Temp El on Saturn Day, because they're worshiping the planet Saturn. So if you think the Jewish religion is so holy, you need to go back and do some homework. There's nothing holy about the Jewish religion. They're worshiping the planet Saturn. But that's all right. The Catholic Church is worshiping Dagon. And so that's okay, because the Islam and Muslims are worshiping the moon god. All I'm saying is the entire world is lost. People are ignorant, ill-informed, unread. All they know is the basketball game and their job, and they got to pay the bills. But they know nothing about theology, nothing about the ancient histories of the world religions. And that's why I said originally, people have no power, because knowledge is power, and the people have no knowledge. Yeah, I think if you really want to start some serious problems in North America, tell the people not to riot in the street. Put down the beer bottle and the liquor bottle and turn off the television and say the hell with the fight games and going to the bars and watching the fights and going to watch your ball games. I would say go back to school, learn how to read and think, and begin to open your mind and see the people who have been leading you around and what they're really doing. They're criminals. They're lying to you and treating you like you're a piece of meat. All you are is just a blip on the computer. So they're lying to you. The churches are lying to you. Religion's lying. Banks are lying. The cops are lying. I mean, the whole world system is very, very corrupt. It is. The only reason why is because the people don't care.
Yes.
People don't care. They don't care how corrupt it is. As long as the beer is cold and the Dodgers are playing, who cares? Well, I'm just amazed.
Jordan Maxwell, you wrote many years ago a book called Matrix of Power.
Yeah.
Why just one book?
I know.
Why not many?
Yeah, that's funny. Well, there's a reason for that, and one of the main reasons is I never have time to write books. And the reason why is because I am always 24/7. I'm always finding out new information. I have boxes and boxes and boxes, and now today with the advent of computers, I have like 3 hard drives, external hard drives, and each one is 4 terabytes. A terabyte is 1,000 gigs, and on one of my 3, I've got a 4 terabyte. All 3 of them are 4 terabytes. So 3 times 4 is 12, which means I got 12,000 gigs of research, documents, books. I've got over 11,500 reference works that I have saved from all over the world on religions, on all the esoteric subjects that I talk about. I got over almost 11,500 reference books that I have downloaded from all over the world. And so I've got tens of thousands of documents on hundreds of subjects. Hundreds of subjects. You come up with a subject and I'll give you 50 documents in 2 minutes on all of it. Why? Because that's what I do. I've always done that. I'm a researcher, a writer, an author, and I speak. But I really don't have time to write And besides and here's another reason why, because uh, my work needs to be seen with the eye.
Yes.
My work needs to be seen because when I'm talking about symbols and emblems and national coats of arms and the logos for corporation logos, etc., and the secret gods and all the secret stuff going on, people need to see it with their own eyes. And so I could write about it with words, but that's not good enough. As far as I'm concerned, that's not good enough. I don't want to write about Dagon. I want to shove it in your face. I want you to see it from 15 different encyclopedias. Not me saying it. Here's what the reference works say. Here's what your own church is saying. Here's what your Bible is saying. Here's what the biblical reference works. If you go to church, look at the encyclopedias. Here's what the Catholic Encyclopedia says. I didn't say it. Here's what the Catholic Encyclopedia said. Talking about the Jewish religion, I didn't say it. Go to the Jewish Encyclopedia. It's called Encyclopedia Judica. And look up all of these subjects. That's what they're saying, not me. You want to go and want to look at religion? Go to the religions and look up their reference books. And then you will find out, no, the churches have always known this stuff. They're not telling you. And so that's why I'm saying, no, it's about time the people wake up. Do some research on your own. Keep an open mind. Because you've been lied to. People know instinctively they've been lied to. You've been lied to by the banks. You know, the banks say they're loaning you money, and then you find out, no, there's never been a bank in the world that ever loaned money to anyone. Because in America, North America law, it's called Maritime Admiralty Law. The law of banking says in the law books, banks cannot loan money ever. You can take a deposit for somebody's money and put it in the bank, and then they can come by and do whatever they want with it and write a check on it or something. But a bank can only hold your money and give you a check so that you can, so you can write checks on it or put it on a card or something. But the bank cannot loan money. Why? Simple. The only money the bank has is your money. And if it's your money, it's your money. So how the hell can the bank loan your money to me? So what happens if I decide not to pay? You put $10,000 in the bank in your name. Then I come in 20 minutes later after you leave and I borrow $10,000. So they give me your $10,000. Then later on, 2 weeks later, they find out, no, I was a criminal. I'm not going to pay you nothing. Well, you just lost $10,000 because I got your money. And so, no, you can't do that. Banks do not and cannot, by law, loan money. So when you're going to the bank to get a loan to buy a car, or to buy a home or a car or whatever it is, or a computer, the bank cannot loan you money. It's against the law in North America. So don't tell me and don't say, well, I went to the bank to get a loan today. No, you didn't. The bank will never loan. Go back and read the Maritime Admiralty Law of North America. Go back and read something about banking law in the United States and Canada. And you will read very clearly in black and white, banks cannot, under any circumstances, by law, loan money. Period. End of sentence. So you're not going to a bank to get a loan. I don't know what you're doing there, but it's not a loan because banks don't loan money, period. Now, I understand what it all means, and we could talk about that next time.
Yeah. Jordan Maxwell, once more, thank you for your generosity.
Yes.
And
I'll tell you what, I thank you for the kindness of inviting me. I'm always happy to be on the show with you anytime.
And I will contact you in a few weeks for the fourth part.
Okay. All right. I don't care as long as you have me back. I'm here.
So, have a good night, Jordan Maxwell.
Good night, and I thank you again for having me on. We'll talk later. Bye bye.